In this video, we will look at the options available to create a new Git repository in Azure Repos. We will look at the basic settings that you can configure and manage the settings for any new repository. Basically, there are two options to when we want to create a new Git repository in Azure Repos. The first option is to use the interface to create a new repository with an admin privilege. Creating a new Git repository is a straightforward wherein you provide the name of your repository and then initialize the repository with a set of default files such as readme or gitignore file. And then once created, you can use any standard Git tools or the CLI commands to clone the repository and then start using the repository for various uh, push and commits. Let's quickly look at how the user interface would look when we're creating a new repository. So here I have an Azure DevOps and I'm getting into a project wherein I go to repos, and assuming you have the admin privileges, you will see the option to create a new repository. So here, as I said, you select Git and then provide a name, demo repo, and then you can add a readme file with a default text, or you can also add various other standard files based on the technology that you use. Example, if I select an Android, it will generate as a default Android related files which you can and a default git ignore file with Android settings, so that all the standard files to be ignored in Git for Android project would be initialized. Now let me select C sharp, or let me select none. So once I say create, here I see there is a new repository called demo repo, and I have a readme file and have the main branch, and this from here I will be able to manage the security settings and access using the branch security and branch policy, which we look into in the further videos. The second option to create Azure repo in a Git repo in Azure repo is import an existing repository. Another and in this option, you basically import an existing Git repository from platforms such as GitHub, Bitbucket, and others to into the Azure repos. On successful import, a replica of branches, commit history, and source files will all be copied onto the new repo created. One point to note here is that import is a one-way operation, and any further changes to the source repository will not reflect in the Azure repo which was imported from the source repository. Let's quickly look at how to import a repository in Azure repos. So going back to the project and into the repo, if you provided you have the permissions, you go into the options to see the repos, and you see the option to import a repository. So here you basically give the URL of your GitHub or Bitbucket repositories, and provide any username passwords that are needed to authenticate. Generally, it might be a personal access token with your username or other details to authenticate you having the permissions, and finally give the name of your new Git repository which is required. And then once you import, everything which is part of the source repository will be imported here, and you will be able to use standard tools and commands to perform Git operation.